I'm just going to let a few pictures of the orbs I take pictures of all the time go by as I just talk about something that is on my heart. I was talking to Spirit. I call it my higher self. I could also say God. To me it's God. But I was asking why things aren't going so well for me. Or the people I pray for in this world, things are going pretty bad for. Especially the people over in the Gaza Strip with the Palestinians and the Israeli people fighting all the time. And this was the answer. It was because of how we call things, I was told. I was told that when God made all of the world in the days, or however long that was, epochs, maybe, I think, long periods of time, that he looked at all he made and called it good. And what we do daily is reenact what supposedly two people in a garden who ate the forbidden fruit did. We do that. Now, I don't think that is a literal story, but I think the actual meaning of it is that the people were able, if they partook of this fruit, to call things good and bad. It is the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, after all. But we, not being God realized, don't know to call everything good. So we call things good and bad. And because we are creators with our words, then we're creating our reality. And if we don't like it, what we need to do is to change how we call things. And I was just remarking how, yes, that is true, that most days I find myself with many thoughts about how bad this is, or how good this other thing is, or how mostly a lot of it is about how bad things are. Not just for myself, not just for my health or my business, but for other people. I call it for them as well. We all do this. It's a habit. It's a bad habit, really. We're not to call things good and bad. We are to call all things good. And that, in the face of it, flies against what most people think. Because they think you need to call a spade, you know? Call it like your eyes see it. But that is not the God talk like we should be talking. For God looked at all he made and called it good. And another thing he did was he called what is not as though it were. And so I realized that every day I'm guilty of this, and it's something I'm working on. And it's really hard to call everything that happens, or everything you see that's happening, to call it good. And I was led to believe that you don't just go and say someone's house burns down. You don't say to them or people that know them, this is good. They'll think you're very cruel and insensitive. It's not that you go say it out loud to the ones that are undergoing that. You, just like with things that happen to yourself that are hard to say this is good, you say good will come from this somehow, some way, even though maybe today I don't see how it will. But I'm going to call it good. And concerning what's happening right now, as I make this video, over in the Gaza Strip, you can't expect the Palestinians, who are devastated with all the bombings, or even the Israelis, who have just as many reasons for being afraid, because Both of these factions have been doing this to one another for many, many years. And you can't say that one side is right and the other side is wrong. They're all of them wrong. But they're caught up in the throes of a very terrible situation. One so hard to say, I will see the good in this. So they can't say it because they're too close to the problem. But what can we do? We ourselves, I think, can help by saying for them, there will be good that comes from this. And we don't know how or when, but we're going to believe for good to come out of this. And instead of that, so many people just say, well, they had it coming, or God only wants Israel to prosper and no other country, and you don't want to be found being against Israel, or God will punish you. I have learned that that is a wrong thought, that the real God has only one law, one single solitary law, and it's called rhythmatic balanced interchange. That means equal giving for re-giving. Everyone prospers when there's not someone taking advantage of another person so that they might be rich and they make another person poor. That is the kind of thing that is held against you that you'll have to overcome someday, although you may be very rich. You will have to answer for it someday. You're building up pretty bad karma if you think that profiting off of the loss of another is something just very clever that you've done. It's not. It's against God's one law. And that one law, rhythmatic balanced interchange, is what keeps everything perpetually going. Because when one has to lose all the time, pretty soon the one who takes can't take any more from that one. And the one, it's like with the weather. It's like with the hot and the cold. If there is too great a disparity between the temperatures, well then, tornadoes happen. And nature has to find its equilibrium. It has to bring balance to everything. And right now there is a lot of talk about there being inequality of resources. Some people have way too much and others hardly anything at all. And the problem just gets worse. And there I am, calling it like I see it. I say, I'm not going to continue to do that, I will say about this, that good will come from even this inequality that we have going on right now. Because from it, and from what stems from it, people will be able to see how they've been party to this by even just their thoughts. Even if they didn't physically do an action, but they thought a thought that was negative. And I'm talking about myself here too, because I'm just as guilty. It's a really hard thing to do, to remember and monitor your every thought and your words. And I want to change the way I look at things and start talking like the God that I am and that we all are, but only when we know that we are. I want to start calling what is not as though it were, and not looking at what's happening and just giving over my power by saying this is the way it is and it's not going to change or it's bad. I will just call everything good. I don't have to understand how it will turn out good, the ways that it will be. All I have to do is call it good. That's the only thing that we can do. but it is all that is necessary. I've noticed in reading a lot of metaphysical literature that we're only given the beginning and the end. We have to begin, because there's magic in just beginning, and everything is predicated on desire. If we don't desire, of course we're not going to have. And then we see the end result that we want, but we see it in our imagination. And we think about that end. We don't think about all the obstacles, all the middle part between the beginning and the end, because if you do, you get bogged down with depression and anxiety because you can't see how it possibly could be that any good could come from something. So you leave the middle part up to God, and you keep your mind open to hearing God in your imagination give you clear insights on what to do, and then you do your part of action-wise to do what it is you feel led to do. And things can change. Now, if you realize it, if you will probably recall that sometimes you've called something that was bad, something bad that happened to you, you call it bad. But later on, further down the road, you saw how that thing that you called bad actually had a good effect, something quite unexpected. And quite the opposite of that, sometimes you've called something good, and in the progression of what you thought was good, bad came that you didn't expect. Because we don't know how to call things when we just can only relate to calling things good or bad. That's forever partaking of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And there's another tree that is blocked. It is called the tree of life, which the way to that was blocked. And I think the reason it is blocked, according to how I was getting answers from my higher self, is that until we learn how to talk and how to have faith and believe for the best, and not only just for ourselves, but for others, and for others who are under a lot of stress, who it's not so easy for them right now to think any good can come when they've just had their home demolished and their family members killed. And their living situation is deplorable. It's hard for them to think good can come. So we can do it for them for now. We can say it, even if we just say it to ourselves. We can believe it. We don't have to announce it to everybody who'll think we're weird if we just say, oh, well, that's good that happened. No, you don't do it that way. You believe for good to come from it. And good will come from it. I've been practicing this a little bit, and every day I remind myself to do it more. It's not easy to bring your attention to every thought you think, but that's actually what you have to do, because you will realize when you start watching your thoughts that you do a lot of negative thinking, if you're anything like me. And a lot of people are less pessimistic, and they usually have a better and easier time of it. And it's because of their optimism. It's because of their faith. And it's not the kind of faith that says, oh, I believe a certain set of doctrines, or I believe in a certain religion. No, it's faith that they can do the things they believe God will help them to do. Or even if they don't believe in God, they believe in themselves. And we ourselves are like God, because Jesus said that they would be one with you as I am one with you. That was his prayer. And he said of himself he could do nothing. It was the God within who did all the great things that people saw him do. That same God lives in us. And Like Jesus, we too can say, "Of myself I can do nothing." But we can't limit that one that lives within us, because if we do, we're not realizing the gods that we are. But we're not those gods until we start talking like a god. So anyway, I will end this, or this video will be too long. It maybe already is. This is the Dove Lady, over and out. Talk to you later.